In this video, we're going to talk about the xDelivery option and the MegaPrint option and how to use those to create a coffee shop application for a small coffee shop type business. And so what we want to do is go through all the different options to configure and show you what we've done so far as we go into this app. So what we're looking at right now is the order page of xDelivery. So as you can see here, we've already created the basic shell of our app. We've added all the important features that we want in our app. And we now have moved the ordering and the MegaPrint to the forefront. Those are the first two features in the app so that we can work on those. And I'll show you here the home screen of the app. So we've got order and printer. And we've added some other features that would be typical features that you would have in a coffee shop app. And so the only two we're going to focus on in this particular video is the ordering and the printing. And so the xDelivery option gives you the ability to create a shopping cart of whatever types of items that you want to have. In this case, it's going to be coffee shop items, but it could be e-commerce. It could be any kind of food restaurant. It could be grocery. It could be a gift shop. It could be any kind of retail. If you're going to do retail and sell things and ship them maybe a great distance, then there's some different options than what you would use for a local restaurant where people would just normally pick up their food, eat inside, or potentially have it delivered to their home or office. So we're going to focus on the smaller use case, which is just a local coffee shop that's local to the customer base. And so nothing would be delivered in this particular case, and certainly everything's going to be close by. So that's going to be kind of the focal point of this app. It's a simple app. It's a coffee shop app. It's not going to have a lot of complicated products or settings in it. But so let's just look at this setting for how we would do this when we first set up the ordering system. So after we add xDelivery, of course, all of our features are down below, as you can see here, as with any app. And you just add the pages, which are the features in the app. And then the first place you'll end up is in the feature that's the last one that you loaded into the app. And so here we are in the first settings page of this xDelivery. And so we can change the name. We can also change the icon, which we've done. And then we end up in the settings. And of course, we've got these other pages that we can configure for this particular store. So we start here in settings. It's going to be a food app, so we're going to leave it with the default. The home screen is the store, and that's the only option we have here by default. And then the product design for the product listings is set to be a grid. And just to give you an idea of what it looks like, I have changed the category design to list, and you can see how they're listed here. Normally, I like to use the grid, but it really depends on your design. But I'm going to go ahead and change it to grid just to give you an idea. And we're going to leave it at grid for this particular demonstration. And so we've just saved that. And now we'll just refresh by seeing the changes. And you'll notice the difference in the appearance of how those categories show up on the page. And I've already created a few categories just to get us started to save us a little bit of time. And I've added in some images and kind of prettied up the app just a little bit. So when we're finished, we'll have a nice, clean-looking coffee shop app. And so anyway, we'll go back to our settings. So we're going to enable it to accept orders. You can choose whether or not to allow the restaurant or the business owner to either accept or reject orders. Normally you would, but for some reason, for some applications, you may not. And enable and return, this is something probably that would apply usually more to things that you've shipped in the mail. I suppose you could allow it if you like. In our case, we're not going to do that. You can decide how long they have to return it. Again, if you were going to use this for an e-commerce rather than food, certainly fresh food, then you'd probably adjust this to whatever you need. Enable product scan. Again, that's more of a product thing than it is fresh food. In the cart settings, we can set the minimum number of items in the shopping cart. We can set the quantity, what the maximum quantity is. If you're doing delivery, this might be something important to think about because you may not want to deliver 1 cup of coffee clear across town, and somebody may not want to pay more for shipping or delivery than they actually pay for the coffee. So you could adjust this thing. So if, say, an office down the street wants to order coffee, they have to order a certain number of items before you would actually deliver it to them. And it would be cost effective for them too. They probably wouldn't want to do it otherwise. But anyway, you can set all these different minimum order values, maximum order values, apply taxes to any of the add-ons. So for instance, if you had some add-ons here that have a price associated with them, like you might with some foods or condiments, or if somebody wants a side of some kind of sweets or something with their coffee or tea, if they want a sandwich, but maybe they also want some kind of a salad or a bag of chips or anything, then you may not be giving those things away. So you may want to add a price to them. And if you add a price, you may also need to add tax. So something to think about there. As far as taxes, if you're in a jurisdiction that doesn't apply tax to these types of purchases, then obviously you would select the right setting for your jurisdiction. The taxes with product would be more for jurisdictions that would include the tax in the price of the item. Where I'm currently doing most of my business is in the United States. So in my case, we add tax as a separate line item. But in the UK or in other parts of Europe and many parts of the world, they have a value-added tax, and many times that price includes the tax, in which case you would select this option. As far as delivery, you can set your time that you think is appropriate for how long it takes to make the food, potentially to get it to where it has to go. This may vary on different nights, and you can change this. It's not something that you have to set it and leave it. You could adjust this according to your business needs. And of course, your currency options you're going to set based on your region. Your time format, the same thing. And then you've got some external fields, which typically apply to merchandise rather than food. And so those are the things. And of course, you can add a background image like you can with everything else in the app builder. So those are the items that you would do for your settings. And that's all we have. And that's all we really need for this particular app. So we're going to save that. And now we're ready to move on. So we can set the delivery and pickup options. If we wanted to set a delivery cost, we could say $5. And of course, if your coffee is $5, you can see what I mean about maybe you wouldn't want to have delivery for just one. I mean, unless somebody really wants that cup of coffee and they love your coffee, then maybe you would. But again, that's entirely up to the business owner to set this. And of course, you don't have to have delivery either. You could only have pickup if you prefer. Maybe you don't have a delivery person. Maybe you don't use any other services to do your deliveries. And so maybe you don't do deliveries at all. So you can uncheck that if you like. For now, I think it's a coffee shop. We're not going to do deliveries. I did add a charge in there if you want a delivery just to show that, but it's not necessary here. And it won't apply if we don't have delivery selected. We can enable the time to deliver and then break down delivery times every 30 minutes. That's the default, but again, you can change that. Enable date to deliver options, how many days in advance somebody can order. This is more important for items where somebody's maybe preparing for a party or an event, and they want to order in advance, pay in advance, have everything set up. If it was a really large order, a catering order or something of that nature, you wouldn't be able to accept an order that is large, that disrupts your normal flow. So you'd like to know in advance. And so it might be worthwhile if you take a lot of those types of orders to set this. And so this is something to keep in mind when you're setting up your app for your client, to make sure you understand what do they need. And you can always change it. It's not set in stone. So you can go with the default. You can change it later. Enable time to pick up. Again, all of these are subjective to what the customer needs. We're just going to save it, although I don't think I made any changes. And then you've got your payment method. So you can use an e-wallet. You can use cash on delivery. You can use bank transfer if your jurisdiction is commonly using that. Check or money order, Stripe, PayPal. So you can use any of these options. I'm going to keep it simple in this demo and just use cash on delivery because we haven't set up any APIs for either PayPal or Stripe. But you could certainly do that, and you would need to do that if you were planning to use those payment methods. So we're just going to stay with cash for now and click Save. The next thing we have is our shipping method. And as I said, we're not going to do any shipping, but these are the options that we have. You've got free shipping, you've got flat rate, you've got distance-based. And so depending on how you need to charge people for the delivery, and if you were doing delivery, then you can set all this according to your needs. Now, there's a few more settings here. Some of these are going to jump to another page, and we're going to do all that work for that page that it jumps to afterwards. So I'm going to skip over the products, which will take us to the next page, the orders, where you can see the actual orders as they come in. And then you've got taxes and slider and stores. The taxes and the slider are still done in this page. And so we're going to go next to taxes. And you can see here, you just add by clicking the plus sign. And then I've already created a 7% Florida tax, and I've set that tax rate at 7%. And you can go inside here and you can see that it's as simple as activating it and telling what you want it to be. You can have multiple tax rates in here if you need to. If you have items that are taxed differently, or you're covering multiple jurisdictions in your app and taxed differently across the jurisdictions, and then you might need to have different settings, multiple settings in here. In our case, all we need is one. And then as far as the slider is concerned, the slider is right here. As you can see, I can move that. I could have multiple in here. I've only put one just to show you. But it's simple. And this doesn't just have to be a plain image. In my case, I just used a plain image, and I've set the name of it. I just called it slider, but you may want to be more descriptive. You can set the date that it's valid from and the date that it's valid until, and also the time. And it's important to set the time as well. It doesn't always activate if you don't change the time. So make sure you just set a time that makes sense for when you want it to start. So if you were putting a coupon or some kind of a special offer, this is why the valid from and to is important, because you may want that, whatever that offer is that you put, if you have multiple sliders in here, you may want some of these to expire once they aren't valid anymore. You can also decide what page to allow them on. So I could put them on these. Right now, we don't have that many pages. So the only thing I have right now are category pages pre-created. And I did that just to save us some time in this demo. But if you had other pages, then you'd have more to select from in here. But I'm going to leave this on home, and that's where this is right now. And then you can make it active and, of course, save it. So at this point, we've gone through all of the options that we have in the main section of the editor. And when we click to the next section of the editor, that's going to take us to a new page. So we can either click products, orders, or stores. It's going to take us to the next page, and we can just work our way down. So I'm going to click stores. Okay, so now we're on the stores menu on the next page. And as I mentioned before, this particular configuration page has all of those options that are not inside the main editor settings page. So we've got the stores, the category, the products, attributes, extra options, brands, orders, and transactions. And so, of course, the orders and the transactions, these are what you're going to see to manage your orders after you have some, and, of course, the transactions. The stores is fairly self-explanatory, but if I had multiple stores, then I would just keep adding stores. If I had 3 different coffee shops across the town or in different towns, I would just add additional coffee shops here. It would change the look of the app a little bit in that it would then list the stores on the front, and then I would go into the store that I want to shop at, and then from there I would select the items I want if I was ordering ahead. But at this point, all the settings that we've already done, those were the settings that we did that applied to this particular store. This is our main store. If we add additional stores, like I said, it'll change the appearance of the app. So we're not going to add any more. I just wanted to show you that. But that's in the store section. Now, we could have also selected from the other menu, we could have selected products. Now, the reason I don't ever start in products is because many times if you create products, before you create categories and before you add the options that you're going to need for your products, you're going to end up having to go back and reconfigure your products because you're going to be missing things you needed to select to categorize those products during the creation time. So I just don't do that first. And I think I showed you on the first page, here you've got drinks, sweets, sandwiches right here. So since we have our drinks, sweets, and sandwiches in that order, if we wanted to, we could just drag them in a different order. I could put sandwiches first, but I'm not going to. But I'm just showing you that we could. And we can drag it down here. It's that simple to move the order around if you needed to. You can also create subcategories. We haven't done that here. I suppose if I wanted to have drinks and then have coffee as one subcategory, tea is another, water, and soda, beer, wine, whatever kinds of drinks that I might want to add in subcategories, I could do that. But this is a simple app, and we're not going to do that in this one. In the case of sweets, same sort of thing. I'm just going to list some sweet items here, some dessert type items, and then some sandwiches. So I added the image. Let's go ahead and take a look. I'm just going to go into the edit. It would be the same if we created a new one. You get this screen. You decide what your category name is going to be. You can give it a short description. If for some reason it was a subcategory, then you could select here what the parent category is. And then you add an image. And then you decide if you want to make it active. Once it's active, it'll show up in the app. People can select it. And you can also make it display in search if someone were searching inside the app. You can also hide it from search if you want. But that's all there is to it. You just click this to pick an image, and away you go. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. We didn't make any changes. But those are our categories, and we're going to stick with these categories. So normally when I work through this configuration, I will make sure that I have my stores set the way that I want them. Now, if you had multiple stores, the stores will pick up the categories that you've already created. So it's still beneficial to go ahead and create all the categories that you're going to need, especially if they're the same across multiple stores. Then I'll skip products, and I would go to attributes if I was going to create attributes. Now, attributes are kind of interesting because I may want to have multiple sizes, and I may vary the price based on size. So if I had multiple size coffees, I could either list them in the product as a small coffee and then list a large coffee, or I could make them attributes, and then I could just create an attribute called size and then make it active and make it filterable so that people can use it for filtering products. Now, one of the interesting things about attributes is that I can use these later for variants. And so when I go into the values, you can see here I've added the values small and large. I could add more. I could have small, medium, large, extra large. I could have extra small, whatever you need. I don't have to use all of these categories. So I could create one set of attributes. If I had a small and a large sandwich and I also had a small and a large coffee, I could use this same set of attributes, and I could use them differently in each of the products. So small and large is all I'm going to create for here just to give us the ability to use these. But I can also use these for variants, and then later on, when I create variant products, I would be able to use these to at a different price within a single product item. We aren't going to demonstrate that in this particular app, but I went ahead and added this in. We won't use it in this app, but I added it here just to give you an idea of what it's for. And then in the extra options, I created a couple extra options just so that we have them created. So extra options, let's think of coffee. Well, I may want an extra shot of espresso. If I want an extra shot of espresso, I could then have coffee, and I have this selected. So if I'm selecting drinks in my category, then all of the drinks that I put would be able to have an extra shot of espresso. Now, probably wouldn't put that in a tea, but it could be added because I've added it to drinks. Now, had I broken my drinks down into coffee and tea separately, then I could just select coffee. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how this works. Now, I can make this a required option, or I can make it just active. If I make it required, I could have different options. I could have multiple choice. I could have, and if I had multiple choice, I could add even more different things. So you have a lot of options here to apply. You don't have to apply any of them, but you can. As far as condiments, let's take a look here at the values we have for the shot. So I have multiple choice, right? You saw that I picked multiple choice. So I have 1 shot, 2 shots, and 3 shots, and I've created a separate price for each one of these. And so later, when I create my coffee product, I can add 1 shot for $2. I can add 2 shots for $3.50, and I can add 3 shots for $5. And so whatever the cost of my coffee is, I could add up to 3 shots just by clicking this option. I could have more options than this. I'm just going to stop here. And then in my condiments, this is for my sandwiches, right? And so I've applied this to sandwiches. I've also made it multiple choice because I'm going to have multiple. And in this case, I'm going to make it required. On the other, I didn't make it required because I don't want to make everybody get over caffeinated if they don't want to be, right? They don't have to add an extra shot of espresso if they don't want it. But in the case of options for a sandwich, I need to know, do they want mayonnaise? Do they want mustard? What condiments do they want on their sandwich? It's important that I know, otherwise they're not going to get any, or they're going to get all of them. So I need to make this a required option so that they pick the things they want and don't pick the things they don't want. So I would make this required, and then we're going to go take a look, and I've added it to sandwiches. Now we're going to go look and see what are the values that we have for condiments. And I've kept it simple here and just added mayonnaise and mustard. But I could have added lettuce, tomato, onion, olives, pickles, any ketchup. It depends on what kind of sandwiches you're serving, but you could have any kind of condiments you want here. I'm just keeping it simple. And in my case here, we're not going to charge extra for mayonnaise or mustard. We just need to know if they want it or don't want it. So that's what we've got for extra options. Now, in the case of brands, this is a feature. We're not going to use this in the coffee shop. I suppose if we had maybe a high-end coffee shop where specific brands matter, we might add brands. This is more for merchandise like designer jeans or designer clothes, purses, jewelry, things of that nature that maybe the brand matters and you want to highlight the brands. You may even want to categorize by the brands, maybe tennis shoes or dress shoes, belts, all different types of accessories. Brands may come into play. In a coffee shop, we're not going to look at brands as something we're going to configure, but I just want to show you what it's for. And of course, in here, you've got your orders, which we haven't made any, but you can select them based on the status. Here, you can select the store. If you had multiple stores, you can select by the type or date type. And of course, you can select the date range. At this point, we haven't done anything, so we don't have anything to look at. Same for transactions. We're not going to have anything here, but you can see the ID and the order number, the customer that made the order, the total, payment method, all of the status information that you need. So you can take a look at your transactions here. So that's pretty much this particular configuration page. We're going to come back and look at this again after we make some orders. But this is pretty much all we need to do for xDelivery, except add our products. Right now, we don't have any products other than a simple tea that I've added already. And you can see products have a few more things to choose from. So here we've got our tea, and I didn't make it any kind of specialty. I just said tea. I've added it to the drink category. It's possible if you had something like a salad, you might have it as starter and as a salad if you broke those into categories. So depending on how you have your menu laid out, depending on what categories you want to have, depending on how the customer has their menu, you're going to probably build whatever app structure around the menu that the customer has so that the digital menu looks and feels a lot like their paper menu or their menu board that they have on the wall behind where you order. And so anyway, here's our store. We're calling it coffee shop. If there were multiple stores, I could select which store this product applies to. If I had a brand associated, I could select here, and I can select whether or not it's a simple or a variable product. Remember, I mentioned the the attributes can be applied to variable products, in which case I could have the large, if I said variable product, I could have a large and a small t, and then I could apply a different price to each size. Here I've only got one kind of tea, and so I only have one price. And then if I wanted to have a special price, maybe it's on sale this week, I could have a different price, and I could set the date for when that special price starts and when it ends. I can also apply the tax based on the tax rates that apply to this particular jurisdiction for the store. And if I had regular merchandise that I managed the inventory, I could also have SKU numbers and manage the stock and determine whether or not it's in stock. And of course, it's tea. We're a coffee and tea shop. It's always going to be in stock. If it's not, we're in trouble, right? As far as product attributes, if I wanted to, I could add different sizes here. I'm not going to, but I could. And then if I had extra options that I wanted to have, like a shot of espresso or condiments, well, I'm not going to add condiments. But if I wanted to have a shot of espresso, I would certainly pick that here if this was something I wanted to be able to offer as an option. And that's pretty much it for this particular item. So we're going to publish that just like it is, and it's not going to change anything. And now we're going to go back. And now let's go ahead and create a new product. Let's create a coffee. Since we are a coffee shop, let's choose Cafe Americano. You can see I've done this a couple of times before. It's a drink. We're going to make it active. And of course, this is a Cafe Americano coffee, which is basically using one shot of espresso and hot water. Now, this is going to be very similar to the strength of a regular cup of coffee that you might brew in a normal percolator or a drip coffee maker, but it gets a slightly different taste when it's made in an espresso machine. And so Cafe Americano is very popular for folks who want to have their coffee made to order, and that way it's not too strong. However, somebody like me who likes a strong coffee may also like the idea of being able to add an extra shot, which is why we have that as an option. So we're gonna make this also $5 for this coffee. We're gonna select our store. We have no brand. We're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna add the tax class here, and we could have a size if we wanted, but we're going to definitely add the ability to have an extra shot. So now we're going to publish. Oh, and we can let's put a picture. Let's see what kind of coffee picture we want for a Cafe Americano. Let's see. I got a few different coffee pictures that I grabbed that we can use. How about that? That's a nice, pretty picture. Let's use that one. We can move that over just a little bit, and there's our picture. Center it, and away we go. And let's publish that. And now we have our Cafe Americano in addition to our tea. Now, what other kind of products do we want to have? How about let's add a sandwich. What kind of sandwich do we want to have? Let's add a sandwich. What have I got here for sandwiches? I think I've got this nice grilled cheese panini with prosciutto. Let's go ahead and add that picture. It's always a good idea here not to use too big a picture if you don't need to. Too large of a picture could slow your app down. And we can just center that and get a nice picture of that sandwich. And away we go here. And then this is grilled cheese, panini with prosciutto. I'm going to add that here to the description as well, just because I want to have something in there. And then we're going to add this to our store. It's going to be simple. The regular price, let's call this $12. We're going to, and let's give it a special price right now for 10, just to show you how that works. Let's start this price on the 1st of September, and we'll run this through the end of September. Or let's run that to the end of the year, just so this sale runs for a while. And then we're going to leave the size alone, and we're going to add condiments, just in case somebody wants condiments on their grilled cheese. We're going to activate this, and we're ready to save it. So we publish, and now we've got a sandwich. And now if we want to add maybe a sweet, let's select here, we'll activate that. How about we put the almond biscotti, so we can add the almond biscotti here. And we can put that picture however we want. Scotty, I'm going to select our store. Let's make this $5. And we don't need any attributes here, and we're not going to need anything down here, so we're going to leave those alone. And we're just going to publish. So at this point, we've added some different items to each one of the categories. And I think that's probably enough for a demonstration. And now we're back over on the other screen. And now we want to refresh our screen and see the changes so that we can take a look at the items that we now have in the menu. So the categories still look the same, but now when we click into our drinks, you can see we've got a Cafe Americano and a tea in here. So we can take a look and we can see the tea, and we can see how that's inside of our app now. Here's our tea. We can go take a look at our sweets. We can see our almond biscotti is in here. We could add that to the menu or to our shopping cart if we wanted to. And of course, we've got our sandwich here, our grilled cheese panini. And notice here, you can see that it's 16.67% off because it's $2 off the $12 normal price. And you can see how that is displayed. You can see it here as well. So anyone who sees an item that's on sale, they can take a look at that. Also here in the condiments, notice you have your mayonnaise and mustard, if we wanted to allow people to pick both of those. Some people will pick one, some people will pick both. If we go back to our Cafe Americano, we can notice here we've got the ability to add an extra shot of espresso. We can add 1 or 2 or 3. We could add all of them. So I could add 3, 5. I could add a total of 6 shots if I wanted to, but I don't. But I have been known to add 3 to get a total of 4 shots, or at least 2, many times. So anyway, we leave it here so somebody could actually get however many they want. Actually, normally I probably wouldn't have done it that way, but I selected multiple choice. But you can make it where they can either select one or multiple. You've got options as we saw on the screen. So whichever way you need this to be, that's how you can set it. Now, that covers all of the normal configuration for the xDelivery. So we've covered all of xDelivery at this point. So the next thing we want to take a look at is the MegaPrint option, and that's this option right here, and this is our printer. And then once we've configured our printer, then what we'll do is we'll make an order, and you can see how that works. And so we've got our pop-up here that says food print needs at least a mandatory one user setup, or it'll remain paused. And so somebody's going to have to be the admin for this. So now we're going to go ahead and start the configuration for the MegaPrint option, and then we'll be ready to demonstrate that. Okay, so here on the MegaPrint page, this is where we're going to do the settings for MegaPrint. So we're going to want to make sure that we have this set to food print status auto. We're going to set this to a printer. Now, if we weren't going to use a printer, or if something happened to the printer stopped working, it's out of paper or whatever, and you need to continue to take orders, you can also select app, and anyone could manage the incoming orders, reject orders if they didn't have the ability to fill them. They could do all that in the app. The printer allows you to do that as well. So we're going to right now select a printer. Now the order fetch date, as you can see here, is not a requirement for xDelivery. If you were using the m-commerce, the regular commerce inside the app, then you would need to do that. And this is a setting that once you set it, you can't change it, because from whatever date that you set this order fetch date, that's the beginning date of the order collection. And for records purposes, you can't change it once you set it. So keep in mind that when you're setting this up, especially if you're setting up a MegaPrint on the normal m-commerce as opposed to xDelivery, then you're going to want to make sure that you have the correct date set for this. In our case, we don't need it. The delivery address on the home page, you can decide how you want that. You've got these settings measured in minutes here. The current estimated processing time, I set that to 15 minutes. The printer ping time warning, 3 minutes. The process time limit warning, I set to 3 as well. And then how many times do I want to send the ping warning? I set 3, but obviously whatever you think you need for that is what you want to set. You can use either Commerce Pro or xDelivery, or you can also use the m-commerce. Obviously, in our case, we're using xDelivery. And if you were going to have an SMS gateway connected, you could either use the Twilio or Text Local. You could pick which one you want there. And if you wanted a front-end cover image, of course, you could do that as well. So this is what we've got. We're going to go ahead and save these settings here, and this is going to set up the printer for us. Now we're going to get some additional settings that we can do. It's kind of like most of the other things. We have to have additional settings. Keep in mind, we haven't published this app, so push notifications and the typical things that don't work until you publish are still in play here. Now, at this point, we have to pick which kind of printer we're going to have. New orders are going to be displayed every 5 minutes in here, but we need to go ahead and finish setting all this up. So let's go ahead and take a look here. We've got our stats. You've got your app owners and app admins. We need to set an app owner. It's got me set right now. I'm not set as the owner, but I have to have an owner or we can't continue. So let's go ahead and set me up as the owner. Now you can see the order queue over here. Now at this point, we've got our statistics. We've got our notifications in here. We can set up push notifications. We can set an email. You've got all your different options here for how the tags are set up. You can decide the notification type. Of course, we just set me up as an admin. You've got all your shops. Right now, we're just looking at coffee shop. Here's our logs. I got to wait for this to finish saving. We've got our logs. We've got our API information here. We're going to need this to set up the printer. Here's your SKU information, and then you've got your settings here. Now we have to set up a printer. So we're going to set up a printer for our shop. We need to give it a name. Let's call this piece, let's call it Coffee Shop 1. Since this is our first one, let's give a restaurant ID of 001. Password, I'm just going to make it 123456. Going to set our currency to US dollars. We're going to pick the version 3.0 printer, and now we're going to add a printer. Oh, well, the rest of it already exists. Yeah, I already did that. So at this point, we're going to save our settings. Okay, so after saving that, I had to change the restaurant ID. I must have used that restaurant ID 001 before. So now we have the printer ID S30, the coffee shop 1. We have restaurant ID 002. We've got our password, and we've got our INI file. And now this INI file is what you're going to use to configure your actual printer. So what you do is you click on this, and I'm going to save this here in this folder. And then we're going to go take a look at it, and let's see what we got in this folder. And notice here that we have a bunch of information in the folder. I don't know if you can see that because I'm not actually sharing that, the whole desktop here. So you may not see what I'm looking at. But what I've done here is I've opened up the goodcom.ini file, and what I'm doing is making sure that there's actual content in the in the file. If for some reason it doesn't have any information in the file, then something has gone wrong and you have to correct it. A lot of times you might have picked the wrong printer. You may have the wrong configuration. There could be some security setting that's preventing the INI file from being created. A number of things. If for some reason you go through the process and you follow the steps, and at the end, after you see this section at the bottom where the INI file looks like it's created, but when you click on it, it's empty, then you're going to want to open a support case and let us try to help you get to the bottom of why it doesn't create the INI file. Now, even if you don't get this INI file, the good news is you can still operate without the printer, but you would just have to change it in your app. The owner of the app or the manager that you've designated would need to change this to app, and that's all they have to do. And now they can manage all of this without a printer. They can just do it right inside the app. So it's that simple to change just from a printer to an app. But that's all you have to do in order to be able to do that. And now we're actually ready to create an order and see how that works inside of the app with our printer. So let's go ahead now and go back inside here. Let's go ahead and make an order. Let's go ahead now and we're going to order a coffee. And we're going to add that coffee. Let's go ahead and add 1 shot of espresso with that too. Done. And now that added $2, so it should be a total of $7. Let's add to our cart. We're going to continue shopping. We're also going to get a cup of tea. We're going to add that to our cart. Continue shopping. Notice when I look at the tea, notice I don't have any options because we didn't assign any options to the tea. Just thought I'd point that out. Now let's go get, I think we might want to have a biscotti to go with that coffee. So we're going to add one of those. And we're going to go, I think I'd like to get that grilled cheese panini with prosciutto. And I don't really need mustard or mayonnaise on that. Well, let's go with some mayonnaise. I think that might be nice. Maybe just a little bit of mayonnaise would be good. And notice that doesn't add any charge, and it happens to be on sale. So there's another $10 we've added to our order, and I think at this point, that's probably everything we need. Keep in mind we had the search here, and if you want to look at popular searches or you want to look at drinks, see, these are the things that would show up. Remember we looked at the search earlier. Anyway, that's how that works. We're going to go to our cart, and let's see what we've got. We've got one panini sandwich. Somebody else was hungry, and we wanted to add another one. Let's go ahead and add a second one to our cart. And probably every person we got that tea for might want it too. And let's see, we've got our coffee and we've got our tea. We've got everything we need. There's our order summary. It's a total of $42, $2.93 for tax, and a grand total of $44.94. And now we're going to check out. Here's all of our information. We want to order this. Let's see what the date we want to pick this up. Let's pick this up today. Let's pick this up at, let's set it for the 16th. Let's set this for, I'm going to pick it up at 10 a.m. Phone number is not mandatory. Enter a note. This is our first order. And we're going to continue. There's our total. There's the date. Cash on delivery. And place the order. Oh, we didn't pick a payment method. There we go. We picked our payment method. And there's our order. It's pending. Let's view the order. Here's our order. Now, keep in mind, this is our order as it shows inside xDelivery. So now, what we want to do is we want to go back and we want to look and see how it looks inside the printer. So this is what the restaurant sees. So if the restaurant also has the app on their tablet or on the manager's phone, now they can see the detailed order. Here it is all queued up. The order's here. They can say, okay, we are processing the order. So we've updated the order. Here's all the information. Here's the total. Here it is in the queue. There's everything we need to know right here. And here you've got it. So now we've got it here. Now, if we go and look back, so you can see here all the information, that this is what the order will look like to the restaurant. Here's the actual receipt, if we want to look at the receipt. There's no delivery cost. It's going to be a pickup. You can see the order is being processed here. So that's pretty much it. So now you've seen all of the different options in here. And of course, if we went back and looked at the other screen, we would be able to see exactly, of course, we can also see it in here. If we want to look at it from inside, we should be able to see our orders today. Well, this one's not completed yet, so we have to wait till it completes. Okay, so now we've come back over to our order screen, and you can see that our order is populated here in the console. And customers can also use the editor, or anyone can use the editor that has access to the app backend, and they can take a look at the settings, or not the settings, but the orders. And so you can see here, you can also change their status in here. We can say it's been delivered, and you can do it from here, or you can do it from the printer. And of course, we were showing you the management from MegaPrint inside the app. But of course, that same view that you see inside the app would also be what gets printed out on the receipt through the printer. So MegaPrint gives you the ability not only to print to a direct printer, but you can also print right to the MegaPrint app inside the app. So that's how that works. All right, so let's go back. You saw the details. We can also see that in our transaction list at this point. And here we now have all that information here. Let's go ahead and refresh that because I said it was delivered. Still showing as pending. Next time that runs, we'll be able to see that it's completed. Oh, I didn't change the status here. So let's change the status here. And now we should see the transaction as completed. And now we're done here. So that's all you have to do to process the orders. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So that's all there is for this screen. And now we're going to go back and just review and take a look at the other screen. You're not going to want to go back and forth. So keep in mind, some people run xDelivery and they don't use a printing module to go with it. They don't use a printer. They don't add the MegaPrint to their app. And so if that's the case, then you're going to manage the orders through the xDelivery feature, and you won't manage it in MegaPrint because you won't have MegaPrint in the app. Once you have MegaPrint in the app, it's better for the client, the restaurant, to choose one place to manage their orders. And since they're going to be using a printer and they're going to use this additional functionality that adds order management to their app, the better place for them to do that is going to be inside of MegaPrint. So once you set this up, you really want to train them to use MegaPrint and not xDelivery. They really shouldn't be going back and forth between the two. The data is going to be there, but confirming, rejecting, all of those kind of functions that they want to do, they want to get in the habit of doing it all from one place, so they don't create any problems or conflicts between delays or when things happen. So use MegaPrint. Once you set it up, MegaPrint's the way you're going to want to accept orders, reject orders, change the status of orders, and all those things. So just keep that in mind. And again, you can do this inside the app. And one other thing we need to think about, because this is in the app, one of the things we haven't discussed yet is the fact that you would have to log in with the right user account, but you don't even want people to see the ability to manage orders. You don't want people finding the fact that they could mess around with orders if they should be lucky enough to hack into the manager's account. Let's say he didn't use a good password, or she. So we want to completely hide this order management feature from regular customers who are just ordering food. The only people that should have access to this are designated people in the restaurant, the owner of the restaurant, any manager or kitchen staff that might need to manage orders, or if there's someone else that manages orders. But whoever those people are, they are the only ones that should be able to see this feature. Nobody else should. And so we need to hide this, and there's a way to do that, and we'll just discuss it briefly. So in order to be able to make an order, to be able to be known as who you are, to be able to receive individual push notifications about your order, all of those kinds of things, in order for the app to be unique to you, the My Account feature is used. And of course, the My Account feature, this is the login, right? So people set up their account. They either do it at the time they make the order or they've already done it. And this information identifies each person. So this is also the way that we're going to keep people out. And the way we do that is we add the padlock feature. And then what I typically do, notice when we go into the padlock feature, you'll see the various options in the padlock feature. But the padlock feature doesn't show in the app because I've selected it to be hidden from the menu. And so I have it where they're only authenticated by their account. So they'd have to have an account in My Account. And then what I do is I hide the feature that I don't want them to see unless they're logged in and they have the rights assigned to them to see it. So it's a two-phase process. So one is I create the padlock. I add it into the app. I normally drag it to the last position in the app. Then I hide it from the menu. I make sure that it's only selected to be controlled by My Account. I don't want it to be allowed by all users, or I don't want everybody to be able to see stuff unless they're logged in and unless they are designated. And I don't want to lock the entire application. So I would select no for both of these. And the only feature I'm going to select in this app to hide for the admin to have access only is the printer. Now, if I had other features in here that I wanted to hide, some specific administrative functions that I had in the app, there are others that could potentially be added. Then I would also hide them behind the lock and only make them available to management or app owners and such. And so this is all we do here. And then we save it. And then once we know who the login account will be used, the login account of the person who will have access, we then go over here to users on the left side. And right now I'm the only user in here. But inside here, we can go into this account after it's been created, or we could create a new account. And you want to check the box. This user can access the pages locked by the locker feature. And that's all you have to do here. And since it's a manager, I don't have the box checked to be in rankings, because typically you'd only want to know your statistics for people who are regular users, customers, not your managers and owners. But you could check it if you want, but that won't change anything. But the most important one here is the bottom checkbox. Now, you will never want to check this for any customers. So once you have identified who all your managers are going to be, anybody in the restaurant that the owner designates, only those people you will check this box after their account's created. And then, of course, you save that. Once you do that, you won't be able to see, and I'll show you how that works. Let's go here to features again. And notice here we are. You can see My Account. You can see all these things. You don't see the padlock because that's hidden, but you still see the printer, right? Now, watch what happens when I log out. So if I go here and I log out, and then I refresh the screen, notice, well, we've got the lock on the printer up here, as you can see, but before it was there as well, but I was logged in, and I'm a manager. Now that I'm not logged into the app, notice I've got order, but I no longer have visibility of the printer over here. So MegaPrint is now not visible to users who are not logged into the app, and even a user logged into the app that isn't designated as an owner or designated as a manager to have access. They won't have access to MegaPrint. And so this is how you control who gets access to control the printing and who gets control of accepting orders, rejecting orders, and all those things. So anyway, that pretty much sums it up. And hopefully that was helpful. But for now, that's all we've got for this particular video. We'll see you.